G'day everyone, just a quick video update for you today. I've got a curious question for everyone. Is the Xenomorph from the Alien movie possibly based on something that is real? Okay, now, for those of you who don't know what the Xenomorph is by now, I don't know what universe or rock you've been living under, but I like to think that unfortunately there has been too much truth put in plain sight throughout Hollywood in the last better part of 60 years, I'd say. And they like to tell us and show us different things in order to keep us in fear. Okay. Now, one thing that really scared the shit out of me as a kid, because I first saw this at the drive-in back in around about probably, I think I was maybe 8 or 9. Maybe 8 years of age when I saw it. My dad decided to take me and my stepmother and put me in the back of the station wagon, and he wanted to go see this at the drive-in. So threw me along, not knowing what it was going to be like. And that was the first time I ever experienced the Xenomorph. This bad boy. Okay, this thing. Yeah. Creature unlike anything we've ever seen throughout Hollywood history. Terrified and traumatized, and gave nightmares to children throughout history for the last 40 years, including myself and my sister. Okay? But this is one of the most terrifying creatures I've ever seen come to the movie screen. But why? Why was it created? Who created it? Okay? Well, that'd be this man here. Okay? Where is he? You've got a photo, young photo of him here. There we go. It'd be H.R. Giger. Okay, now H.R. Giger is an airbrush artist from Sweden, okay, and he was well renowned. I have a book of his in relation to biomechanics and some of the things that he actually has drawn and painted over the years, but it makes me wonder, how does a mind come up with such darkness as he's come up with, okay? Because this particular creature is unlike anything we've ever known, ever seen. And I'm wondering how much truth is actually sitting in plain sight within these Alien franchise movies. Now, a lot of us like to think that, this is all sci-fi, entertainment, bullshit, fantasy, etc., etc. I beg to differ to somewhat degree, because they don't put these things in movies without a reason, okay? I do believe this was meant for a very big reason, okay? Now I'm just going to show a few more photos of this, okay? Because this is from the recent movie Alien Covenant, okay? Nice freaking scary creature, eh? To think what this thing can do. And it's first generation Deacon, which is a white one, which has a mouth very similar to a goblin shark, has an external mouth and an internal jaw that comes down. The outer jaw dislocates and allows the inner jaw to come out and take its prey. I mean, someone went to a great deal of creating anatomy, biological anatomy for these things to be displayed in such a way. I mean, like this whole franchise has a universe of its own, if you really look into it, okay? Someone went to a great deal of trouble of actually designing these things, okay? Now, as we're all familiar with how Hollywood created these things. I've seen the making of Aliens, how they created the Queen, and how there was 2 guys inside the rib cage that puppeteered both sides of the arms, 2 guys inside that thing. Yeah, unreal, eh? And the rest of it was all on cranes and remote control gimbals and gears and servo pulleys and things like that. I mean, I've seen the thing. It's an amazing marvel of sci-fi entertainment to see a puppet like that come to life, such, okay? Same with the big yellow thing that Sigourney Weaver used to battle it. That actually had someone sitting behind her inside the thing, helping her move it and articulate. Yeah, that's what I mean. So a lot of people don't know that sort of stuff. So yes, it is a movie, but is it based on truth? Okay. Now, when I look at the actual franchise, when you go back and actually, like, as much as Alien itself came out with Sigourney Weaver and the story of the Nostromo back in 1979 or whatever, okay, we have now prequel movies which are called Prometheus and Alien Covenant. Now, when I look at the Prometheus movie, all I see is a story of the deep state trying to convince us that we went out there looking for them, the progenitor so-called creator race, and this particular being that they ended up finding was very malevolent, had wanted nothing to do with humankind and actually wanted to wipe us out. Okay? And when I look at that story and how they projected that to being out there among the stars, and there was a particular star system that was on all these different cave paintings from around the world in the movie, okay, that all depicted the same star system pointing, okay, and they thought it was an invitation. Well, I look at that as an inverted story of them trying to say that they went out there looking for him when he was really here the whole time. Yes, the story of Enlil, Enki's half-brother, okay? Enki being the creator of us, okay? And Enlil being his half-brother, okay? Now, as much as these guys, the progenitors, okay, these guys are pretty freaky looking, eh? Now, a lot of their technology, a lot of their things that they created were like viruses, bioweapons, okay? And if you look at the movie Alien Covenant, they actually released a bioweapon above the city where descendants or refugees, descendants of the progenitors were living in a city or whatever. And David, the actual android, synthetic, released this bioweapon upon the city and just decimated it in a matter of seconds. It's turning people to liquid pretty much and solidifying. Okay? But you look at all this story and you think about it and you look at the whole connection of it, and you got to understand is that Hollywood like to invert, like take a story of truth and turn it upside down and give you bullshit. Okay? They would like to make us believe that these so-called progenitors, so-called, okay, the bad factions of the Anunnaki, okay, I will say, being Enlil's faction, were out there and they went out looking for him, when in fact the whole time they were here, okay? Now, according to Elena Danaan and Dr. Sala, thanks to Exopolitics Today and Elena Danaan's reports that she likes to give in Star Nation News, a few months, or about a good 6 months ago now, or maybe longer, I should say, maybe longer, Enlil was removed from the planet via the Galactic Federation, okay, and the Earth Alliance. So basically, whoever it was that they were trying to project in the movie, the designer of these bioweapons, hybrids, chimeras, etc., through using black goo, which is pretty much prevalent, it's very much present throughout the whole movie. Okay, this liquid stuff that comes out of these jars and can change you via either ingestion or touching it, or having it enter your bloodstream, or through liquid oral, okay, or through tear ducts, whatever, sweat. It can start to change you at the molecular level and rewrite your genetic code, okay, turning you into a hideous creature, okay, and changing you, metamorphosizing you, okay. Now, when I look at also the city as well that they were in the second movie, okay, you look at this beautiful big city as a domed big room, okay, big domed room, okay. Well, they also like to use a lot of things in such a way that is, as I said, inverted. Okay, now we look at the story of the Pachigi Mountain complex right now, where there's a domed room complex inside the mountain up in Romania right now, where it's also been disclosed that there's a beautiful black shiny table in that room that has holographics that allows you to use DNA to create different species. Okay, now being a domed room, okay, inside a mountain. What they've done here is taken the domed room outside of the mountain and put it in a city in plain sight on a planet. But what I'm saying is that this here particular design looks very similar to what we see being described about the Bashigi Mountain complex. This is a photo from inside this particular building from the movie. See how, even as Elena has also described with Dr. Sala recently, that there were lines on the floor showing each way to different corridors that led off from the main chamber, and how there is a massive black table in the room, the main chamber, representing what I just described inside Bashigi Mountain complex. But see how they've used it in a movie that's inverted and taken truth of something good and positive that we're actually discovering right now inside Romania in the Bashigi Mountain complex, turning it upside down and putting a negative spin on it and keeping us in fear of what's going to come out by putting it in a movie franchise as such as this. Okay? It makes a lot of sense as to how they would use this sort of information and kind of jumble it up in a way and throw it all in all these different franchises to keep people confused, so that when this stuff does come out for real, they'll sit there and go, oh, no way, that's not for real, man, because that was in the movie such and such, when in fact, the movie such and such, we're actually drawing that information from the real deal and turning it upside down to keep that person in fear of that. Okay? Not good. So this is why I like to expose this sort of shit in movies, because it is true. It's all there in plain sight. It's just up to the discernful eye and the listening ear and the open heart and open mind to see what is definitely in front of you, and then being able to expose it like this. Okay, now moving on, okay? This is the book of H.R. Giger's that came out, okay? It's called the Necronomicon by Giger, okay? Now, this is, it's funny that it's called the Necronomicon, okay? Because we know that there's a lot of dark arts books that are out there, one of them being called the Necronomicon. And as you've all just read, and continue reading here, I dare say that guys read in on some stuff that we're not supposed to know about, and he was possibly exposed to some very dark shit along the way. Okay. Now I'm only speculating. Okay, it's quite a good possibility, but that he has been exposed to some pretty dark shit, because when you look at the whole thing about the Wayland Corporation, you know, and how they've got in the movie Aliens, you've got not the Nostromo, the Sulaco in the second movie, with ships, alien marines, okay, all in stasis chambers going out, okay, they're asleep, okay. You got marines that are going out there, super soldiers basically, to a degree. I mean, not enhanced, augmented, but these guys are basically marines, okay. They got upgraded weapons called, you know, M41A plasma rifles, okay, flamethrowers and smart guns, which are really big ones that are on the side of the hip with a camera sort of hinge, okay. That's Vasquez and Drake, okay. But you look at these and you think back in your mind, like these are basically early disclosures as to what they were going up to and getting up to out there in the secret space program, what they were looking for, okay, to somewhat degree. Now, the reason why I say this is because the reason why I say that they're looking for this particular being, the xenomorph itself, okay, this nasty fucking thing here, excuse my language, okay, this thing here, this nasty bastard, okay, which is really, as I said, frightened the shit out of me and countless other kids over time, okay. Why is it that they've brought this out? And how is it that H.R. Giger knew about, was able to depict something so scary? I believe that he knew more than we have been led on to believe, okay? The reason why I say that is because there's always truth in plain sight. There's truth in fiction and fiction in truth, always. Something I learned from Morpheus from The Matrix. Not the man, Lawrence Fishburne, the character, because there's always truth, okay, in something that's always in front of us. It's just up to us to see. Now, in the Bible, Revelations 9:10. I'm not a biblical or religious man, but I know my books and I know my history and I know certain verses. I know what my eyes see and my heart see. In Revelations 9:10, it says that from the fiery pit or the furnace shall rise onto the surface beasts with heads like locusts and breastplates like armor that have tails that sting like a scorpion. Doesn't this very much look like something that has a head like a locust, has breastplate on its chest like armor, and a tail, as you can see, slung over its left shoulder there, that would look like a stinger of a scorpion? And we have seen the queen alien in Alien vs. Predator and in the movie Aliens use her tail like a sting and strike like a scorpion. Okay? These are just things I'm pointing out from my memories to bring to your forefrontal lobe and bring to your forefront memory to recollect so that you can go, oh, yes, I remember that from that scene. My gosh, he's right. Okay? But what I'm wondering is this actual being a real being? Okay? Because, I mean, for one, you've got it in a movie that's existed in a franchise for over 40 years. You've got a Bible verse that clearly depicts verbally something that what we are seeing here visually, a head very similar to a locust with a breastplate like armor with a tail that stings like a scorpion. Okay? That's in a Bible verse, Revelations 9:10. You can go and read that for yourself. And the reason why I say that or ask, is it real and do I believe it quite possibly might be? Yeah, I think it could be. I'm not certain, and I'm not going to go on record and say it is. I'm just theorizing and speculating at this stage until we have the proof. And the reason why I'm going and saying this is because I came across this in my travels. Yeah, this particular stone carving is above some temple somewhere in the world. I do not know where. Okay, but clearly you can see here two very similar creatures that have heads like locusts and tails that come from underneath, joined in the center, coiling around each other. Okay, underneath, a very symbolic, what looks like flower. Okay, and they're in the hunched over position, like worship. But don't they look very eerily similar to what we see in the movie Aliens? Pretty crazy, isn't it? And the reason why things are always carved in stone is because they are meant to last the test of time to tell a story later in the future. So I ask everyone, if you know where this particular carving is in stone somewhere around the world, please let me know. I need to know because I'd like to do a further presentation on this and know more about it. Okay, you are being able to help me in this respect. Okay, but isn't it interesting how a movie that exists from 40 years ago that started out with Sigourney Weaver and whatever his name is, guy who played all these other different characters that were in it. Isn't it amazing how this particular character is in this franchise 40 years ago, but yet there's a vivid description, I should say, in the Bible that represents very similar to what we see on the screen here. And then throughout my travels in looking for things and finding truth, I come across a stone carving like this. So I'd like to know if you believe that quite possibly if the Xenomorph is real and whether or not this silly old biddy, that's what he looks like now, H.R. Giger, this man here, knew more than we all have been led to believe. Was he possibly exposed to sensitive material, photographs, etc., which inspired him later on to go and create the artworks, which was later handed off to Ridley Scott whilst in the process of creating the movie Alien. And the artwork was so impressive to Ridley that he wanted to see such a creature come to screen life, where it's been now for the last 40 years, 40-something years, terrorizing the minds of the young and young adults everywhere around the world. Is it possible that that particular creature is real? I don't know. Let's find out. But I do believe that if they were real, there's no chance of them coming onto the surface now, because all things that were here, in a sense, planned by those in power to release upon the negative timeline have been removed from the planet also. Okay? But leave your comments below. Okay? This is just a short video today. I just want to bring to your attention just things that I see, okay, and that I put together in my mind, and I ask questions, because that's what this is all about. We question everything. Discernment and intuition is a way of learning to navigate through the bullshit, finding truth from fiction, fiction from truth. Okay, we have to discern through it all and find the bullshit and weave it out. Okay, because I'm curious if this thing here that's carved in stone is real, and if that's real, then that is the reason why it was described in an ancient text, which, as far as I'm concerned, that book, the Bible, derived those texts and writings from far older texts and from far older civilizations. Is this a creation, chimera, hybrid, created by Enlil in our ancient past? Just questions. Okay, I'm just throwing it out there. Leave your comments below, everyone, because I'm curious to hear your thoughts as to the reasons why these things are thrown in movies in plain sight to keep us terrorized and in fear. Kind of makes sense as to why they would, so that when they would release this sort of stuff, we'd actually shit a brick. I mean, imagine a flood of those sorts of things being released upon the planet if they got their way. If the negative timeline had come about and they wanted to, one of their plans out of many that they were going to use, release a flood of that sort of creature upon the planet, just like we saw in the movie Alien vs. Predator, where they were rising above the steps, on the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan. Okay? Where you see three predators on top trying to fight them with their laser cannons, blasting them. And there's that many of them that they're overrun, that they have to activate their gauntlet atomic bombs, or whatever bomb it is that they use to wipe out the entire city and flood of alien creatures. That's what I mean. Imagine that sort of flood. I mean, you saw that scene from the top of the pyramid looking down and all of them running up. Oh my God. I couldn't imagine that on a global scale, if that was what one of their plans was, to release. It was clearly written as such. Was that just a story that they made up? I don't know. But I mean, things are made in stone for a reason, to last the test of time and to tell a story in the future. I'm wondering if that story is trying to tell us that this was possibly a real creature in our ancient past, a chimera hybrid that possibly Enlil made in order to try and wipe us out, or used in the past to already wipe out a previous civilization. Who knows? Just theorizing, throwing it out there. Okay? These are all things that we must question and look at. Okay? Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I thank you again just for checking this out with me today. Just little questions, little things that I like to put together, because really, at the end of the day, we have to discern, question everything. So we're getting close to the end of all this now. And I mean, I'd hate to think that we got to the end to find out something like this actually exists and was going to be released. My God, wouldn't it all be for nothing? Thank God for the Galactic Federation. Thank God for the Earth Alliance. Thank God for all those beautiful people that have been sacrificing on the altar of war to free this planet and its people from the darkness that has existed here and the negative factions of ETs that have been here as well for God knows how many millennia. Thank God for all of them, and them releasing and removing all of them, because our positive timeline would not be coming about. And these things if our positive timeline wasn't coming about, they would be still here and probably would have been released by now. So thank God for the good guys, hey? Leave it there for you, everyone, today. Thank you again for joining me. I'll leave you until next time. Take care. Oops. Nope. Don't want that. And record.